We're having some conflict right now, but it's healthy conflict.
Yeah.
That is your child in the background. But
Yes.
that's a part of the vision, so it's completely fine. He's a part of the community, so he can go ahead and join the show if he likes. See, we welcome healthy, unscheduled conflict on the Daily
He may
Drip
want to
podcast.
talk a little
Would you
bit.
like to say anything? You have to teach him conflict.
Right. We're as new parents, we're navigating that often.
Have you had your daily drip? Welcome back to the Daily Drip podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Levy. I had to bring Jasmyn back. She was dropping so many long words and sentences that I was like, man, we just need to have a re-up. But I had to have you back because our drip is conflict. And I need some help with conflict. You want to help me with that today?
Absolutely.
Okay. But before that, we had some conflict because last time I said she had braids. She doesn't have braids, so we're not in the same community. Describe the community of your hair.
So I'm getting locks, I guess you could say getting, because it's a bit of a process. It
Okay.
takes about 12 to 18 months for the hair to lock up. And so what that really is like you keep it in the style and you're just letting the hair kind of come together, lock
So,
up. And that takes a while.
like, are you in the Little Wayne community?
Mm.
From a hair perspective,
Um,
is that
I
like a
wonder
part of like
I wonder if he refers to his as locks or dreads because they're kind of different communities.
Little Wayne? Let us know. I think by now, I think you're following the podcast, so that's that. But hey, what is drip? It's devotional reading for insight in practice. We have kingdom content that builds community. Jasmyn's a part of my community. Thank you so much for being back. I think you'll be
Absolutely.
perfect to talk about conflict. We're in Philippians chapter 1. We're going to be reading verses 27 through 30. Can't wait for this one. Only let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel of Christ, so that whether I come and see you or am absent, I may hear of you that you are standing firm in one spirit, with one mind, striving side by side for the faith of the gospel, and not frightened in anything by your opponents. This is a clear sign to them of their destruction, but of your salvation, and that of God. For it has been granted to you for the sake of Christ that not only believe in him, but also suffer for his sake, engaged in the same conflict that you saw I had, and now hear that I still have. Paul has some conflict right now.
Yes.
Help us with conflict. A lot of people are scared of conflict.
Yeah, conflict is intimidating. I
Okay.
think until you learn the tools that are necessary to help you navigate it with courage, with strength, and assurance of, where you stand. I
Okay.
think it's really important to be aware of yourself in midst of conflict, like whether you're revved up by emotion, what your thought life is at the time, because
Okay.
that's going to influence how you respond behaviorally when there's conflict
Okay.
present.
I think like from people I talk to, people are just off top. I'm just afraid of conflict. I don't even think people are even giving conflict a chance.
Right.
They're just like, if there's some conflict, what I've seen is either people will agree verbally while disagreeing internally, or just start distancing themselves from people they disagree with because they don't like conflict.
Right.
How would you recommend someone take a step closer into the conflict?
I think becoming aware of boundaries, right? That's something that, and I'm seeing a lot of talk about online as a result of people becoming more familiar with what boundaries are, and that it
Okay.
is, in fact, a healthy thing, and that when you are setting boundaries, it is going to feel a little bit like conflict sometimes
Okay.
because you may say, hey, this is a standard for me that I will or will not tolerate this thing. And then there's a response from the other side, which in turn is the conflict, right? The disagreement or
Yeah.
the tension is present. And so
Yeah.
becoming aware of like, what are my personal standards and what is necessary for me to communicate so that I'm allowing in my space what is good for me, what's healthy for me, and then learning the words to say to communicate that. That's
That's
the
a whole
part.
using language to adequately express where I really am.
Exactly. Yeah.
What I've learned in boundaries is that it gives me the opportunity to love you and myself at the
Yes.
same time.
Yes.
Sometimes as Christians, because Paul says that believe in him, but also suffer for his sake. Um, Sometimes as Christians, we suffer for our spouse's sake, we suffer for our boss's sake, but that may not be suffering for God's sake. This is
Right.
saying, so Christians are to suffer for the things of Christ, but not necessarily to have unhealthy boundaries for yourself.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that keeping those two in mind is where you find that balance of healthy emotional health for yourself and spiritual health for yourself. And sometimes, a lot of times I encourage for my clients to like write these things down. Like, what are your values? What are
Okay.
the things that you want to remain true to that, basically speaks to your integrity as a believer, if they are a believer that I'm working with? And then what are some things that are like culturally important to you to honor,
Okay.
acknowledging those things without sacrificing, what the word says, and how we should, how you should conduct yourself
Yeah.
as a believer.
Yeah, I think this gives like the desired outcome for conflict resolution when it says in verse 27 ish, it says, stand firm in one spirit,
Hmm.
one mind, striving side by side for the faith of the gospel. So the faith of the gospel seems to be the foundation of the agreement,
Hmm.
and we're still going to strive,
Yeah.
but side by side
Right.
instead of fighting each other.
Yeah.
But in order to get there, like you said, sometimes somebody may feel like your opponent, verse
Hmm.
29. You may suffer in verse 29 as well. So what percentage of your clients would you say are a product of conflict?
Oof, over 50%, because
Okay.
I see a lot of couples, and something
Okay. Okay.
yeah, something I teach them is that the problem is the problem. Your spouse isn't the problem. So first of all, it's
Okay. I
reshaping how
like
you
that.
see them.
Yeah.
Because if a lot of times I use the
Say that
analogy
one
of
more time. Say that one more time. You be
the
saying some stuff. I like
problem,
it. Okay.
the problem is the problem. Your spouse isn't the problem.
So you got to help me, Jasmine, because sometimes I think my wife is the problem.
Her behavior might be the problem.
Yeah, she was
But
saying my behavior too.
inherently, is she the problem? It might be something she's doing, because people can change behavior,
Yeah.
right? And I'm
You're
sure you married her
you're
because she's an
counseling me
awesome
right now.
person.
Yeah, she is an awesome person. So how do we I'm not gonna make this about me. How do we separate that? Because what you said is very profound but simple, but it's like very hard to do.
It is hard, and it takes some awareness of how am I looking at this. When I see my spouse or loved one or someone in my community doing something, what thoughts, or doing something I don't like, what thoughts are coming up for me?
Okay.
Is it, oh, they just want blah blah blah, or they want their way, and is it more about them as a person, or are you able to externalize that behavior to
Mhm.
look at, okay, I don't like when they do this. I don't like when they talk over me. They're not selfish. They just interrupt often, right? So it's like taking that apart.
Yeah, one of the things that I strive to remember is love believes the best. Leadership keeps people at their best.
Yes.
So like you gave that example of somebody cutting me off. That's not their intention to disrespect me
Mm-hmm.
because I haven't asked.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't know, and it takes the conflict to ask. One of my mentors helped me with language that eases into conflict. It's help me understand what you meant when you said that.
Yes, yes. That is so important to clarify what people meant by, doing something or saying something, because we live in our own world, and we have to remember that. Like, we have a lens through which we see things, through which, filter through which we hear things. And so we may make an assumption about someone's behavior without actually considering what could be the other, the alternatives to how what they meant about what they said or did.
We're having some conflict right now, but it's healthy conflict.
Yeah.
That is your child in the background. But that's a
Yes.
part of the vision, so it's completely fine. So if he wants to get in the shot, he can get in the shot. This is kingdom content that builds community. He's a part of the community, so he can go ahead and join the show if he likes. See, we welcome healthy, unscheduled conflict on the Daily
He may
Drip
want to
podcast.
talk a little
Would you
bit.
like to say anything?
You want to say something? Say hi, I'm Zion. No? Okay.
You have to teach him conflict. Yeah,
Right. We're as new parents, we're navigating that often.
yes, yes, yes. Okay, so we gave some insight about that. Now let's talk about practice. How are we going to practice this during the week?
Yeah, I would say, it's going to take courage,
Okay.
but figure out some words you can say to someone that maybe you've had on your heart to address an issue with.
Okay.
And it starts with, like you said, love and easing in, like
Yeah.
help me understand, and I felt this way
Mm-hmm.
when this occurred,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so another way to an easy method I would say is the using I statements. I
Okay.
felt blank when you blank.
Yeah.
So that is taking away blame and
Yeah.
accusation, and just really focusing on what you want changed.
Yeah. I feel nervous. People won't hear you clearly right now. Is that healthy?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that was
So
good.
that made me,
Okay.
make a correction. He says, "I'm Zion." Okay.
What's your name? What is your name? Okay, next time. So here's what I would say as practice as well. Have conflict with yourself. Before you have conflict with your spouse, with your boss, with your enemy, and so forth, have conflict with you. Why are you afraid of conflict? Why are you really upset? What do you really need? Then, after you've had conflict with yourself, you may want to hit up Jasmine because she can help you with some tools for conflict resolution, not necessarily with the other person. It may be something on the inside of us.
Yeah.
Because what I recognize being new to marriage is we didn't really have marital issues. We had individual issues that we brought into the marriage that made it more complex.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I love that you mentioned intrapersonal conflict, so the inner conflict that
See,
we
those are
have.
those words. Intrapersonal.
Yeah, because
Got
you
it.
have interpersonal
Okay.
and then intrapersonal.
Okay.
And we definitely can be in conflict with ourselves. We can have one thought of, oh, I need to say this or do this, but I don't want to because I'm afraid based on, whatever past experiences. And so we got to work that conflict out in ourselves.
Yeah, we're gonna always remember this when Zion is older, because I believe he has a communication gift. We just gotta let it. We just gotta let it out. He was wants to say something. But hey, that's the drip. What we're gonna do all week is we're gonna focus on healthy conflict. We know that Paul said it's gonna include suffering. It's going to include striving, but let's strive side by side as we partner in the gospel. Jasmine, thank you for coming back.
Yes,
And we're going
thank
to
you.
close by saying,
Stay
stay dripping,
dripping,
my
my
friends.
friends.